Infidelity, a night of overthinking. All narcissists cheat. Most commonly, this is a consequence of sexual or physical infidelity. But where that isn't present, you should understand that there will be emotional, financial, intellectual infidelity that occurs. The narcissist will cheat on you when you're the intimate partner primary source as part of creating that contrast where you're put into devaluation, where a potential replacement is being sought, unconsciously of course by most narcissists, where they are lesser in mid-range, and consciously by the greater or the ultra. In some instances, the individual does not scrub up to become the replacement, and therefore they cater to the provision of the prime aims, but you remain in situ as a devalued intimate partner primary source. In some instances, the narcissist may not have an intimate partner primary source, and therefore where they are dealing with two or more intimate partner secondary sources, there is no exclusivity to one or the other, there is no fidelity to one or the other. The narcissist will be juggling the two until one becomes embedded as the intimate partner primary source, and then a period of fidelity will occur with the arrival of the golden period. But infidelity will visit at some point. And often, that results in a situation where the narcissist disappears, stays out late, perhaps doesn't even return home. This behavior, of course, is done out of a sense of entitlement, a lack of emotional empathy for the waiting intimate partner primary source. No accountability to that relationship. The necessity of asserting control over the other person, the intimate partner secondary source. The drawing of fuel from them, the continued assertion of control as they are being seduced towards potentially replacing the lonesome and waiting intimate partner primary source. This behavior is redolent with the narcissist. We leave you waiting in that bed whilst we are gallivanting elsewhere. And this has a particular impact upon you. You turn your head as you lie in that bed, and there are the mocking electric numerals that glow, showing 4:02 a.m. You waited up for us in anticipation of our return. You wanted to ensure that we weren't too drunk from this night out that we said we were going on, and that you were ready to provide us with a large glass of water, and to ask how our evening went. You exhibit once again your empathic traits of compassion and caring. You may not have been entirely sure where we had gone, or who with, because our answers were vague. Something was muttered about friends and a new bar, but you knew better than to keep asking. To keep asking, of course, would present as challenge fuel to the narcissist, and result in some dismissive behaviour, or worse, as we reject the perceived threat to our control. You have learned, although you may not realise that you're dealing with the narcissist, that if we want to tell you the detail, we'll do so. Otherwise, it is better to remain quiet. It wasn't always like this. In fact, at one time, we never went out without you. We either preferred to stay in with you, enjoying a pleasant evening of fine food, wine and a film, or an early night in bed, where we wrapped ourselves around one another as we explored and delighted. You were very much in the golden period. Now, you lie in that empty bed and run a hand across the smooth sheet, and it feels cold. There has been no body heat to warm up the bed beside you. Once you would be able to turn and see us lying there, fast asleep, a low snore emanating from our mouths as we lay on our back. Now you have to conjure up the image to see us there. It has been so long since that we have come into that bed. You eventually headed to bed as midnight came, and we were nowhere to be seen, and in your usual way you were concerned that we had not yet come home. But exhibiting that reasonable approach that you're known for, you preferred to tell yourself that we were just enjoying ourselves, and that ultimately you would be better served heading upstairs and getting some sleep. Except you couldn't. You closed your eyes, and then the overthinking began. All you could see in your mind's eye was pictures of us cavorting with other women. You do not recognize the faces, but they are young, smooth-limbed, scantily clad and wrapped around as a writhing tableau of flesh, with us at the centre, You wish you did not think this way, but this is what is always forming in your mind whenever we are late. And this is of course driven by your emotional thinking, as it wants you to think about us, to consider what we're doing, where we are, and it corrupts your empathic and narcissistic traits to cause you to contemplate what we are doing. It gets hold of your narcissistic trait of jealousy to cause you to think that we might be with another, that we might be cheating on you. You wish that you didn't consider what might be going on, but truth be told, we haven't given you the attention or assurances that we once did. Now, you even feel that you're being mocked by us as we pour our attention on someone else. And once again, that elevated emotional thinking attacks your narcissistic trait of pride to think, how dare he do this to me? You turn and look again at the clock and see that barely 5 minutes have passed. Where are we? You would call, but no, there is no point. Experience now tells you that the phone will either be switched off or it will be on silent, shoved in a pocket somewhere to ensure that there is no interruption, that there is no threat to our control of the individual that we are currently courting. You wish these sensations was just paranoia, but you know there is actually no good reason for us to be out this late. There never is. The evidence has been steadily mounting as these late-night excursions increase in frequency from monthly to weekly. You have smelt the strong perfume on us when we have eventually appeared, and either slid silently beneath the sheets, or been found lying on the sofa or in the spare room the next day. You've noticed on other occasions the smell of an unfamiliar soap or shower gel, as it is clear that we have washed away the recognizable scent of sex from our loins, our fingers, and our mouths. Sometimes, on hearing us enter the house, you have sprung up and switched on the light in the hallway, framing us in a bright light as we stand there. You looked over us and noted how we actually looked too composed, hair smoothed into place, shirt tucked in as if we prepared how we looked before actually returning. The narcissistic smirk that would sometimes appear never helped either. Your truth-seeker trait came to the fore, and you would ask the questions. Where have you been? What time do you think this is? What on earth have you been doing? However, all you did was give us challenge fuel, and therefore our narcissism caused us to brush off whatever you asked, as we asserted control and nullified the threat that you caused to our control. No matter what approach you adopted, concerned that we might have been in an accident, upset that you have missed us, anger at our lack of consideration by returning so late, or so early, dependent on how you regarded, it never engendered the reaction you wanted. We showed no shame, no guilt, no sorrow, no remorse. In fact, it was quite the opposite. A swaggering arrogance driven by our sense of entitlement as we stood there, soaking up your fuel. That always surprised you. You thought that we might slink away or push past you, telling you to shut up. But actually no. We just let you stand there and unload on us. Little did you realize that all we are doing is drinking up your challenge fuel. And then, at the appropriate time, we shut it down with a comment, or then we walk away from you and move to the spare bedroom. Often you would receive that mockery, and often with that strange look in our eyes, almost as if we were regarding prey, and that salacious slant of the mouth. You wondered what we were really thinking about as you tore a strip off us or cried at how late it was and begged to know what we had been doing. When you tore a strip off us, you were providing us with challenge fuel, and we gladly drank of your fuel, and then at the appropriate point put down, either instinctively or consciously, that threat to the control. Your tears were pure negative fuel. You signalled that you were under control, and we allowed those tears to wash over us as they fueled us. Yet now, there is no point. You remain in bed, hoping for the release that slumber might bring, but it never comes. So many questions drift through your mind. Where is he? Who is he with? Does he kiss her like he used to kiss me? Does he love her? It hurts. Your love devotee trait being corrupted by your elevated emotional thinking, causing you to ask these questions. Narcissistic trait of jealousy also affected. Pride too. Your truth seeker trait gets involved because you want us to explain ourselves, provide the confirmation to you about our infidelity and admit the numerous transgressions, but it doesn't happen. On this night, we eventually appear, sliding in beside you, but always managing to do so by radiating that air of "do not question us." We do as we do. Each time this happens, it now appears to become later and later, until now it has entered the realm of preventing you from sleeping, but it has never been worth rising. The anxiety remains, sweeping over you, as you are caught between wanting to confront us and not wanting to do so, because to take such a step will amount to an admission that there really is somebody else, and you don't want to confront that. For now, you accept the explanations that are offered the next day along the lines of, "Oh, I ran into some friends I hadn't seen for a while, so it became a late one. Sorry I didn't call you." False contrition, triangulation, deflection. Perfume. "Oh, yes, there was a lady I knew through work in the bar. Oof, she was wearing a lot of perfume. Some of it must have rubbed off on me." Deflection, triangulation, denial. "You can smell soap." "Well, I do wash my hands after I've used the bathroom, you know." Belittlement. "I lost track of time." Deflection. "I was enjoying myself and wanted to carry on. Is that such a crime? Why do you have to make a big deal about such things?" Blame shifting, provocation. The comments are often made without directly looking at you, but then you are shot a sideways glance, as if we seem to be checking whether you're swallowing our lies. But actually, that is just the step of instinctively checking that you're under control. It isn't a recognition that a lie is being told when undertaken by the lesser or mid-range narcissist. You recognize the signs now, but you still cling to the hope that it isn't true, that the lies are truths, and that there is nothing to be concerned about. You wish you didn't feel this way, but you still love us, and you don't want to lose us. You fear the emptiness of a world without us, and so you accept the status of being forgotten about as we embrace the night. You are resigned to your position of remaining awake, fretting and worrying, knowing that you are actually probably furthest from our minds, and you tolerate all of this, driven by the various fears, anxieties, and concerns caused by your emotional thinking. You ought to go to the evidence. You ought to embrace the logic and understand what is actually happening, and then, with that confirmation, obey the first golden rule of narcissism. Once you know, you go, you get out, and you stay out. You cannot help the way that you feel, but sometimes, as you lie in the ice-cold bed, the first rind of dawn, breaking beyond the blinds, you often wish you didn't feel at all. Perhaps then this paralysis would vanish, this existence between something and nothing, the continuance of not quite knowing, but not being entirely ignorant either. This is what pains you the most. This is what keeps you doing nothing, neither leaving nor resolving, this living in between, this surviving in the spaces, residing in the gaps, occupying the hinterland between things. It drains you. If only you could remove your paralysis and reach one place or the other. As it is, you turn and glance at the clock and see that it is now too late to sleep and too soon to rise. You find yourself in between yet again. Yet, it needn't be that way if you looked at what was really happening and made a decision based on the evidence.